Hey, thanks for joining me again today. My name tag. I just got done doing lab work at the place where I get my chemotherapy, and excellent numbers once again, which I am very happy and proud of. And the reason why I think they are so good, or I know that they're so good, is because of the diet that I follow. And I get a lot of questions about the diet, about the ketogenic diet. Why is it beneficial? And for the most part, I tell people to simply do a search on Google, and you will find the scientific papers that I want you to find, not the websites that say ketogenic diet, maybe, this and that about the diet. There is so much scientific information behind the diet and its mitigating effects on cancer that it's worth taking a look at. So, and the reason why is because when you have scientific evidence behind something, it just like puts that stamp of approval that's, that people want to know about and that people trust more, because we are not scientists. They are. When, it's backed by that sort of study and research, it's just like, wow, this is good. So whenever I am introduced to somebody, or they come up to me, or we get into a discussion about using therapeutic keto for cancer treatment, in my case, I tell them to just put in those two words in a Google search, ketosis and cancer, and search for I got the window up because it's such a beautiful day here in Naples. Search for the scientific papers that are published. I try to go to the ones that are like cited more, that other researchers have cited in their work, and those are even stronger, and normally they're the ones that have like the most research behind them, the most participants in the study, that kind of thing. Okay, but not to get boring about it, you can do anything like you could put in fasting and cancer, and then look for the scientific papers that are written. Or you can go to scholar.google.com. That's the scholarly articles. These are like published papers that are done by scientific researchers for the most part, and some are done by corporations, so you have to be very careful what you're reading, because there may be some bias in there, because like the papers published by Coca-Cola or something like that, right? So the diet per se is low carb. And why do we go low carb? Well, for the first thing that I want to mention is the low carb part, is because carbs are converted by the liver into glucose, and glucose, as you know, is food. It's the favorite food of cancer cells, most cancer cells. I would say 97% of cancer cells, around in there, love glucose. So I don't want to take any chances. I don't want anything in my body turning into glucose. So for me, I'll even look at cheeses that I buy, or any sort of thing that I may buy for. Oops, got a car here that's doing weird stuff in front of me. That I may buy for my diet, and watch the carb content. Now I'm like really disciplined, radical about this whole thing, because for me, and maybe for you, it's a life and death thing, right? So cancer is serious, and a carb here and a carb there, eventually you're going to have those things stack up during the day, and it's not going to be a good thing. Your carbs will turn to glucose when they get in the body. That's just the way the biology works there. So thus, no carbs, right? Try to keep those carbs as low as we can. There are some foods that I really, really love that have carbs in them, like little teeny bits. Eggs, for example. Some cheeses, but very, very minimally, like less than 5%, or less than 0.5%. Like really low. And no sugars. That's another big deal in this diet. Now, therapeutic keto diet does not allow for any carbs, or very, very low carbs. It depends on what scientist that you're talking to, right? But in my case, I have allowed myself 12 carbs a day, and I never get to that point. So I watch them very carefully. It's like really important to me. Another thing on this diet is high fat. I mean, I'm just like off the charts with the fat content, right? My fat macro, as they call it, is at 280 grams. Normally, it depends on what's going on with this guy right here, my Fitbit. If I'm like very active during the day, then that macro climbs a little bit, because what my diet and what my body's trying to do is to make sure that there's enough energy in the body to burn only the ketones and the fat which turns into ketones, and not start looking for glucose in the body, which it will do if you are ingesting proteins. Make sense? Since we're not doing any carbs, it's going to go either for protein or whatever it can. And if your fat macro, if your fat number isn't up to where it should be, for me like 280, right, it's going to start scavenging from other places, because that's just the way it works. I mean, that's how the body functions. So the liver will do what? It will take, and it can do this, the liver has so many crazy functions in the way it works, will take proteins and turn them into carbs. And then the carbs get converted to glucose and get fed to places in the body that need them, that are requiring them. One place that is very needy for carbs is your red blood cells, which cannot run on ketones. They don't run on fat, they run on carbs. But just about every other thing in the human body can run on ketones. So when your body gets into a state of ketosis, which that's what you want, then what happens there is, and you have to check, make sure that you have one of the cancers that feeds on glucose, because there are some tricky cancers that don't. They can feed, they can metabolize fat. So you got to be careful and find out which flavor of cancer that you have, and make sure that you're not feeding it right with your ketogenic diet. And like I said before, you're generally safe, but check with your oncologist, your nutritionist, that you're not doing a bad thing, because like I said, 97% of cancers are the kind that feed on glucose, but there are some that don't. So make sure, I don't want to give you some advice and then you find out that you're going the wrong way with this. That's why I say, I'll just tell you what I'm doing. I'm not a doctor, not a nutritionist, and I'll tell you what I'm doing. Can't make recommendations on any of my protocol other than, like different foods, different things that I take to, make this whole protocol work. But as far as, applying it to your particular case, I can't do that because, you know, I'm not a physician. I'm not an oncologist, not any of that stuff, right? So fats are great for you. I find that people that don't meet that fat macro, some of my clients get hungry during the day because they're not ingesting enough fats. Let me just stop at the gate right here. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, good morning.
Bay Shore 101.
Hey, sure.
Jackson. All right, thanks. Yeah. So I also think that people are like on a normal diet and they fear that fats will make them fat. I'm just talking to a nurse. Had some, you know, my labs done today, and she says, no, I'm sticking to lean because fat will make you fat. And that's just so untrue. You know, I told her, just do your own research on that. You know, it's not, we've been taught that forever by so many companies and corporations that want to sell you their stuff, you know, and it's just, I told her, you got to be your own advocate in this kind of thing, right? Fat does not make you fat. It makes you satisfied, and that's exactly what we want. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I let you go and park the car and go up in my condo here is that we have to stay away from anything that has sugars in it. There's two things I look at in a food. The protein content ratio to the fat in it. I want low protein, high fat. I want zero carbs. We talked about that before, right? And then the other thing that I want is zero sugar. You gotta get something that just has absolutely no sugar in it. I think I'm gonna leave that car here. Got the a can of, these are really good, guys. Let me just show you this. I don't make any money off this. These are from Whole Foods, and it's sparkling water. This one is the grapefruit one, and I'm telling you, they're just delicious. I mean, even more so than the normal ones that I get at, you know, the grocery store, or the ones that I get from like even Trader Joe's. I mean, these ones, I was impressed. So no sugar too, right? I'll tell you that part. So yeah, stay away from sugars. I look and make sure that there's no sugars. We don't want sugar. Sugars will add up. And, you know, if we're talking like life and death stuff like we are with cancer, I mean, you know, you just got to do the right thing. And there are enough things out there that you don't have to go scrimping and finding. Just throw this away in the trash here. You know, that was my little name tag. You don't have to go, you know, choosing things that have sugar in them because of the small choices that you have. You have so many choices, all right? So don't worry about that. You can make great choices, dietary choices, without having to settle for something that has sugar in it. So don't do that. Hey, I want to thank you for subscribing. I want to thank you for following me on this channel. And man, have a blessed day. And we'll check you on the next video or audio, wherever you're listening to me at, okay? Take care.